That does leave good room though, like right here. If she does come and she wants to get in the shot, she can just stand and stare at the camera.
Oh man, so what episode are we on?
I think this is 6.
Welcome back to another episode of More Madness Podcast, episode 6. We've been sitting here for an hour
trying to get started,
but we were talking about shit that we can't put on here because you guys are judgy ass bitches. And so
I wouldn't take it that far. I mean, if you wanna like and comment, go ahead. But like, I wouldn't call you judgy.
Oh, you're all judgy.
You haven't been judgy so far. There was one guy on some random person
about how much I said something. Nobody would notice if you didn't say it so much.
It was when I said something about messing up the ASMR when you cracked open the beer and I said, I was like, you did it again.
So that was for you.
Whatever. Yeah, it was me. And they were like, I wouldn't even notice if you wouldn't have pointed it out, asshole. And I was like,
listen here, Chandler.
I was like, what? I was like, you have nothing better to do on a Friday night than to go on some random person's YouTube channel and just be an asshole. Like, why? So yeah, that guy, if you're watching this, you're judgy. But if that wasn't you, I'm glad you're watching.
Thanks for engaging.
Yeah. Thanks for driving up our engagement. No. So this is episode 6, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And,
are you sure?
Pretty sure.
I thought last time I wore that camo football jersey for episode 6, and it was like the worst one because I was like deathly hungover.
No, I'm pretty sure that was 5.
Okay. So this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
6 is my lucky number.
We're outside.
So what's good?
It's nice. There's a breeze. It's sunny. Like it's just nice.
It is nice out here today.
We're porchcasting today.
Finally get an outside cast.
Finally get a porch cast. This is nice.
You know, I was thinking about the roof cast and how unstable both of our roofs are. So not only are we going to have to shoot like our podcast away from our normal environment, but it's going to have to be in like someone's roof that's cool with
letting a couple hooligans get up on their roof
and shoot a podcast.
Yeah, that would be
I could just, because we don't have
that.
Yeah, we don't have a workaholics roof where we could just
chill up there, like actually be stable. Yeah, like you said, everything's super slanted.
Yeah,
so we would be
fucking
either
falling.
that, or we'd have to sit up there for an hour, and our shins and ankles would just be wrecked afterwards from holding us up. The whole time. from
the shingles.
All the
mine's tin roof.
So it'd be hot.
I'll just burn you.
We need to do yours in like the dead of winter. It'd still probably get hot because of the sun.
Did you open your Monster yet?
I haven't. Not yet. I was
ASMR,
waiting.
just a heads up.
Okay, I'll remember that. I'll make sure that we clear the air for the ASMR to do it. Did you open yours already?
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I won't say anything about it because I don't want Judgy McJudge Pants coming back and saying anything about it.
Yeah, we don't have right on the crotch. Yeah, we don't have Darth here to assist us.
Oh yeah, no, he's in my studio. He lives in my studio.
Before we get started.
Trash. We had to pick up the trash.
Yeah. So a few episodes ago, we made a comment about having a set of wireless mics being brought into our podcasting life. Turns out, piece of shit. Trash. Not good. And they're hard to get on. And when you do get them on, they weigh so much, they pull your clothes down. They don't have teeth on the grippies. That's just aesthetically speaking. Now, as far as quality goes, I mean, it doesn't matter what type of EQ you put in here, they're gonna clip. And it's just a big waste of money. So, and the receiver never wants to connect properly. So it's like, you know what? Fuck these things. All right.
I think these are the ones that I see people on like TikTok wearing all the time. but they don't wear them. That's the thing. Is like you're supposed to wear them like professionally.
They hold them.
You're supposed to do it. But the people on TikTok have them, and they like put them in their mouth, and they're like, and it's like, dude, you don't even know. Like, not only are you just super unprofessional about it, but you sound terrible. Like, you probably paid a pretty penny for these mics.
I did. They were like for them, and then the shipping to get them here. That's about $100.
That's crazy. And to think somebody gets them on TikTok and just basically puts it in their in the back of their throat and talk like it's,
right. Well, I figured how
ridiculous.
Cool would this be if we sat here like today's episode? The mics are a podcast aesthetic and they go with the. I get it, but goddamn, how cool would that be? Just sit and have a conversation in front of the camera and it be wireless. But like the next step up to that, they just get extremely more expensive, and I don't think they'd be compatible with our shooting setup. So it's like, fuck it.
I mean, we'll figure it out. If you have any good suggestions.
If
you have any good suggestions on wireless mics that won't break the bank, let us know, because we're looking for them. We like Ty said, we don't have a problem with the wired mics, but it would be nice to, especially when we do that roof cast, that we don't have to bring all this stuff up there.
Just get on the roof.
Get on the roof with the wireless mics and then just wreck our ankles trying to stand up on the shingles for an hour.
Can you imagine like neighbors looking at us shoot for an hour and a half, 2 hours of podcast?
I would hope so. And then we wave to them and be like, "We're shooting a podcast," and they'd be like, "You guys suck."
Yeah, you guys suck. Get off stage. Yeah. Okay, so I have a question that I was going to ask you earlier when we were talking. Also, we have got to learn to medium ourselves when it comes to our podcast and the topics that we talk about, because we quite literally have some juicy conversations pre-podcast, and then we get into the podcast, and then we vanilla it a little bit. And I understand your approach, your mental game on that. Some of these things we talk about have got to make the podcast sometimes.
Oh no, I agree. There's some stuff that we talk about that would be great to talk about on the podcast, but I think some of the context around it is just the stuff that I was like, I don't know how I feel about putting some of the other stuff around it, and you can't talk about some topics without talking about the context, and it's just maybe we'll break that wall in a later episode.
Okay, maybe. All right, yeah, I would like that. I would like to work towards that. Also, B, I get what you're saying, because I've watched some of my solo episodes from Body Language about, like, it'd be like 11 at night and I'd be laying in bed and I can't sleep, so I get like this wild hair just to go shoot 45 minutes of a podcast and just talk and smoke and drink and just become tired. And I look back at those episodes and I'm like, why did you say that? Like, that's out there for forever now. Yeah. Like,
that's kind of my mentality about some of this other stuff is like it's okay for some people to know, but like not the
world. Yeah.
Not the internet.
Well, see, my thing is that like I have such a motor mouth as is.
No.
Shut up. I have such a motor mouth as is. So I found myself like mentally hurting myself, not just letting myself rip on camera. So I push it to the threshold of like, okay, people really don't need to know that. And then I stop there. I'm learning that it's probably going to be a regretful creative choice in the future. But I mean, y'all don't come here to, fucking have a pen pal, I
mean, maybe you do. And if you do, you have to send us something first in order for us to send it back. But hey, I mean, pen pals are cool, but then again, being vulnerable is cool sometimes, and
that's my thing.
And also revealing way too much information.
Yep.
Giving away dirty secrets that nobody wants or needs to hear.
Waiting on that email.
We're still waiting. We're still waiting
on that email.
We do have an email set up.
Mm-hmm.
moremadnesspodcast@gmail.com if you want to reach out to us directly without contacting us in the comments. We can read those and you can tell us if you want to be anonymous or something like that. Or if you want to send us a sponsorship, that's the email, more MOOREMADNESSPODCAST @gmail.com.
What's up with it? Just waiting on Darth to kick in.
He's not here today. He took today off.
Also, I don't think we brought this up at all, but we're on my porch. This is my backyard.
Porchcasting. We said it was a porchcast, but this is Ty's porch. This isn't my porch. I don't live in such nice scenery. I live in a neighborhood. This is good. I usually don't like tea, but this is good.
Right. I knew you would like it because when I got mine, I was like, oh, he liked the one I had last time.
Yeah.
So I'm a snack.
This is the peach tea monster. And like I said, I don't drink tea. I'm not a Southerner by any means. I may live here, but I'm not a Southerner, so I don't like tea. But this one's pretty good. This one's actually really good.
I love tea.
Of course you love tea. You grew up in you're from Monroeville.
Montgomery.
You're from Montgomery, but you've been through Monroeville too. So like,
my dad's from Monroeville.
I thought you lived there too.
Nope, just him.
Just him. Well, it's in your blood. Monroeville's in your blood. Mm-hmm. But still, Montgomery. Now you're here.
It just kept going further south.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely disco cowboy Diplo approach.
I was listening to, I think he was on Spotify's podcast.
Don't you just love him? I just love him.
He's like, for a little while, I was like,
he's a little pompous.
I was like, it's Diplo. And I was like, he's cool. And then, I saw the pompous stuff. And
that was the Jack U years.
So I was like, maybe he's kind of a douche or something like that. And then just seeing him actually be artistic and creative and be like fully himself and just do all kinds of music where he did like the EDM stuff and
Thomas Wesley Presents stuff. The country stuff.
The country stuff. That's what he was talking about on the Spotify podcast, was that his next album is going to be very heavily. I think so.
The Thomas Wesley part 2.
I guess so. It's part 2. But yeah, it's gonna be very like country influence and stuff like that. And then he was talking about when he was working with XXXTentacion and like just all. I can't. Like,
I love him, dude.
The creative spectrum that he is on is just absolutely insane. And like he's super talented. And
do you not identify with that a little bit? Because
I do, though.
I do hardcore.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing, is after listening to that episode of the podcast, I was like, I feel this way about a lot of stuff, and I never thought I would have connected with Diplo like that before, but I definitely do, and it was interesting to hear.
Yeah, right.
What he does. He was like, I like doing the EDM stuff, but then sometimes I like doing the country stuff and hip hop, and then he does like that weird alternative LSD project that he did, and like that. It's just,
I thought that was great.
It was good, like, and it's just good music. And
who was that with? He did that with somebody
Sia and
some dude from LCD Sound System, right?
No, I don't think so. Hold on, I gotta look it up now because I was trying to remember the other day.
Or somebody from Red Gold Green.
And I meant to.
That's wrong. I meant to look. Buck, spreading all this misinformation. Look at me go. Who else was in that project? Anyway,
it was Sia was the main. Hold on, fuck. Labyrinth. He's the funky psychedelic guitar player.
Yep.
Yeah. So Labyrinth, L, Sia, S, Diplo, D, LSD.
Well, see, that's like my whole approach to music, is that I've been through so many. Like, music has been such a walk for me from such a young age that I feel like I've had different perspectives and like mental illustrations in my mind of like what my music, like what tool am I and how I scrape through music and what I pick up. It's like a net kind of, you just scrape it through. You don't really know what you're grabbing until it comes out, and then you sift through it, and it's like, it's my metaphor thing again, isn't it?
Yeah, no, there's work. There's always work. There's work really well.
And so it's like I am the net, and whatever I pick up is like, and you get to choose what stays in the net. And I think being young and doing the rock and roll and punk rock thing and the hardcore community and like seeing all that, like you said a few episodes ago, you just really liked how the EDM scene treated each other. It's kind of,
Yeah.
And then like thinking like, oh, country music's stuffy. That shit sucks, dude. That shit's lame. You know? And then getting into producing music and actually wanting to make good music, you have to pick up real instruments and you have to really learn how to run digital audio workspaces. And like you find that like, oh, everything you thought was lame has its place in music.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love it. That's why I love everything from like rock and roll to country, from EDM to trap and hip hop. And, you know, I embody that, you know, and I get that with Diplo. That's why I like it's almost like even if he puts out a song that's a little bit lesser than, in my opinion, still listening to it because the musical integrity is there.
Because you identify with the artist. Like you love the artist even if you don't love all of their music. You still love the artist. And I think, but again, that's going back to like you just said, you relate to him. Like you just relate to him on a deeper level because you have got to know him so much. I relate to him more now, but like the country stuff, I just can't relate to that. Like I didn't grow up in a situation that like country music artists
called for your lifestyle
talk about. Like they talk about a different lifestyle than anything I've ever lived before. So like I just can't relate to it. There's some stuff that I can listen to and it's just, you know, I can appreciate the art form of it, but it's not something that I'm going to listen to and be like, oh wow, this is great. Like I understand this and like I relate to it, and it's just that's why I don't like it so much as other styles of music.
But that's why I appreciate his musical approach so much, is because he's making country music for people, or he's making country-esque music for people who didn't know or care about country music. Like, okay, kind of, for instance, like when Florida Georgia Line came out, everyone was talking about that's bro country, that's bullshit country, that's not real country. And it's like, well, you're right, it's not country music, it's pop country rock.
They called it like stadium.
Yeah, it's like stadium country. Like that. But you know, like they said the same thing about Travis Tritt and Clint Black and Vince Gill when they came out, because they had electric guitars in their shit that had distortion, they had pedals, and you had like the Waylon, Willie, and Johnny fans being like, that's not country. But then when Waylon, Willie, and Johnny came out, you had Hank Williams senior fans talking about, why is there electric guitar and country? That's not country, man. It's just so it's like we're at a divine place in music now where there are no boundaries. Cross genreification is happening. People who didn't like one thing find themselves liking it now, because now J's are allowed in the party where cowboy boots are. And you know, an 808 is in the back of a dobro or a slide guitar, and it's like things are being made for everybody now, because everybody hangs with everybody's styles, sit on top of each other, and like there's no boundaries. And that also, I think, is a big reason why the world can be in such a shitty place sometimes, because there are no guardrails to keep the peace between separate things sometimes, and they're all running into each other and mixing and crossing. It's just as beautiful as it is kind of scary and dangerous. But I know that kind of segued so fast, but
it was a good explanation though. Like all of that, you know, it's we're about to get really deep right here. It's almost like the music scene that we were just talking about, where everything's like apart from each other and then everything kind of meshes together, and it's scary but it's also beautiful at the same time. And that's just how Ty's mind works. Take a trip with us deep into your mind.
Deep into your mind. Come with us. But that's what I feel like, you know, kind of like you know, Diplo's making more country-esque music for the EDM scene, where like Kodak Black is now making, and like Trippie Redd is making like more pop punk kind of stuff for like the white guy fans of theirs. You know, it's like, I don't know, I guess that's just being a musician. It's like if you really cut back all the way down to like Buddy Holly, Willie Nelson, Jerry Lewis, like the whole rise of television and music and electric music and things like that, they all started one way, and then by the end of their career, it's like, wait, he was the singer of a band, now he's like the world's most popular DJ, or he was the drummer of like this pop guy and now he's like the world's biggest country singer. No, roots grow out, you know, like they you know, shit. And then sometimes you have people who get in a certain way and they die a certain way. You know,
well, I mean, it's all about growing and evolving as an artist and stuff like that, where, you know, if you get in a lane early and that's where you want to be and that's who you continue to grow as, like, as long as it doesn't repeat itself, then you're continuing
then
to grow.
There's that too. Right. It's like a fucking balance that is so goddamn retarded that people are over it. People are just like trampling over it now. It's like, well, you know, you don't want to be AC/DC where you write the same fucking record 17 times, or, you know what I mean? You don't want to do that, but then you also don't want to do like, okay, somebody that I'm a huge fan of that some of this crowd may not even know, but you'll definitely know, that is so high, but then also so low with their content and their art, is Madison. Madison has awesome music until he doesn't.
Oh, I'm okay.
He has that album called Irene.
I know exactly what you're. I always pronounced it medicine, though. I know it's spelled differently, but I've always pronounced it medicine, so I didn't know just the different pronunciation, just potato. But yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Dude, some of his tracks are so goddamn good. Some of his records are so good, and then sometimes it's like, how does this have? I don't understand. You know. Pause. I gotta pee.
All right. Wait.
Because whenever...
No, you had Pots, didn't you?
Never met any of your dogs. Because every time I'm there, like the first few years I knew you, I never went to your house because you didn't live there. Right when you bought it is when, like, our friendship started to get going for real. And then that's around the time I came public with, like, I don't fucking like dogs.
I knew that was one reason why, or at least I thought it was a reason why.
I'm a lot different now. I don't mind dogs.
Right. But I remember, because I would always invite you over to my house for just, not the house, not even the apartment or anything like that, but like the house. And we would be all for it, and then you'd always like back out like right at the last, and I was like, why does he always do that? And then you said something about like, you're like, I have to be honest, I don't like dogs. And I was like, that's it. That's got to be the reason why you never come over to my house. Because I had 2 dogs at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's got to be it. And yeah, good thing you finally warmed up, because now you can come over to my house. And Potts isn't that bad. My dog Potts is a Boston Terrier mix, and he's like 20 pounds. And I mean,
it's a little feisty though.
He can be feisty, but I like to say he's a good judge of character, because it turns out that anyone who he has like been kind of aggressive towards in the past turned out to not be like the best person character wise.
Dude, I'm rebellious as fuck. He's gonna pick up on that from me. He's gonna be like, "Up, this motherfucker."
No, I think he's gonna like you, because I mean, like, no, he would be. I think he'd be fine, but no. And then Dakota was Chelsea's dog, and he was like,
"Sorry, buddy."
No, you're good. It's vape. It's not even like real smoke.
It does smell good.
It does smell good. That's why I don't mind when people vape around me. It's not like cigarette smoke. Anyway, Dakota was Chelsea's. I almost
bought a pack of cigarettes today because we were going to be able to.
Why? No.
Because I thought it'd be so cool to be smoking during the podcast.
No. Don't smoke. Don't smoke.
Square.
Don't smoke.
And Mr. Vanilla over here.
No, you can vape. I mean, vape. You can light up a J. Like, I don't smoke a bowl, whatever.
That would get us demonetized.
Oh, yeah. So don't do that. According to YouTube, don't do that. But like,
why does it go from episode 5 to 7? Well,
yeah, right?
We had some ideas for episode 6.
YouTube just pulls it. YouTube's gonna mute like this whole half hour to make sure that whatever. But no, Dakota was Chelsea's dog, and he was like 100-pound lab, and I obviously when we got married and stuff, he was my dog too, and whatever. And unfortunately, a couple years ago, actually I think it was a little over a year ago, he just stopped eating one day, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I work at a vet's office, and I think we had talked about that in the past episode. I work at a vet's office, so I brought him in to work with me one day.
Not Foot Locker.
No.
I don't.
That I should just get a part-time job at Foot Locker and just use the employee discount.
I don't know why I thought you worked both jobs.
Probably years. Just because I have so many pairs of shoes.
Oh, shoe check.
Just think you're not wearing shoes. You got socks on. These are the brand new Dunks that just came out. Yeah, I'm super proud of these. Really like these. These were underhyped, but I like them. Speaking about Jays and cowboy boots in the same scene, that's kind of how we are.
But see, the thing is that I would actually wear almost every shoe you have, and these. You would never wear these.
Not those, no.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
Dakota.
Yeah, Dakota. He just got sick and stopped eating, and so we brought him into work one day and
check up on him.
We kind of examined him and tried to figure out what was going on. We didn't see anything, and we shot an X-ray, and we ended up having to do surgery, and we found like a football-sized tumor in his abdomen, and had to put him down after that, and it was like really, really sad.
After you took it out, he couldn't survive.
No,
after you took it out?
We weren't able to take it out. That's the thing. It was adhered to so much stuff. That's like. It's good and bad that I got to be in there during surgery to help out with surgery, and like I witnessed the whole thing. So it's not like, I know a lot of people are skeptical nowadays about doctors and like what they can and can't do and what they try and try not to do and all that stuff, and they just don't trust them. But like my bosses, I can 100% say, are like the best, and they will never like steer you in the wrong direction. They'll never make you do anything that you shouldn't at what they do, or they're just trying to get your money or anything like that. My bosses would never do that, and I love that about my job and about them and working for them. But like they're like, we should take this to surgery to see what we can do, and we got him in the surgery, and there was literally nothing we could do, and so we had to let him go, and it was really sad and whatever. But yeah, so but again, I was there in the surgery. I was in the surgery room. I was like helping them. I worked on it, and we did everything we could. And there's nothing we could do, and it was tough. But
in moments like that, are there advanced doctors that you could call in or maybe call on to help with? Kind of like, you have like Foley Hospital, mm-hmm. and then you have like Sacred Heart in Pensacola. Both do the same thing. One just really has more like
technology available.
Yeah,
I don't think, remembering what it looked like and like how far it had advanced, and we just didn't
like
know
even
it.
Someone as a tech like yourself, like you knew like this was too bad.
Oh yeah, no, then it was just it had like grown around and was stuck on too many like vital organs and stuff like that to even be approachable.
That sucks.
It was pretty terrible. That was the last time I can remember. That was
also we during the break, we had a pee break, and we started talking about dogs and how I used to hate Ellie and how I love Ellie, and I just pressed record right in the middle of that. Yeah. No preface. So sorry. Welcome to More Madness Podcast.
Right. No, but so it was, I mean, obviously that was one of the worst days in my like recent history that I can remember of just feeling just poorly, terrible. I mean, that was just like an awful experience to have to go through that. But
sure, it fucked Chelsea up.
Oh yeah, no, it was bad. And
what are they doing over there, dude?
I think he just got his bike out. Is that like a storage closet?
It is.
Okay, yeah, he got his bike out.
They only want $35 a month for those, and everything in there is concrete, even the walls.
I mean,
yeah, my thought exactly.
You've got a back porch. I guess if you're that scared of people just like stealing your stuff.
No, goober. Use it.
Oh.
And each unit's air conditioned.
Maybe.
Go in there and like faux hang some old carpet pieces. Put them like right in the middle.
If you did, or you could just drive 45 minutes to my house, and I've already got a studio all set up.
That's true. Touche. Yeah.
Or spend your $35. I don't care. Do what you want to do with your money.
Look, man. Oh, hey, all right. So, we were talking earlier about equilibrium. I have a fucking question I was going to ask you earlier, but I think it'd be like kind of highlighting for maybe some of your fans that watch the podcast that don't really know who I am. What is like, this is way off in left field.
We bounced around a lot in the past 15 minutes.
We digress.
That's okay. That's how we are.
Yeah, right. No shit. Yeah, you're just here to watch us talk.
Basically. I mean that's what podcasts are all about though, right? Like that's if people just talk to each other.
Banter. And
eventually Mac Miller, I know what you're doing. Eventually we'll bring on some guests and we'll invite them into the conversation, then you'll just see 3 or 4 people just talking and maybe you'll be a part of it. And I just noticed we have a friend in the shot right here.
Tammy.
Yeah.
Tamskis.
Yeah.
She's cool.
That's nice. That's
too much pee when she pees.
Hopefully she doesn't start peeing or pooping because that'll be
the intro.
That'll be really.
I'll zoom in on that.
Welcome to the More Madness podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's go out in left field. And we were just in right field. Let's go over to left field with your conversation.
For speaking for myself, because I had a hard time with the transition, and I still sometimes do, not near as much as I once did. My knee's in the shot. I do that all the time. I put my knee in front of my face. I shot a solo episode with Derek once, and it was like this the whole fucking time. And I was like,
Derek in the knee.
Yeah. Body Language Podcast featuring Tyler's knee, sub featuring Derek. That episode will never be released.
Derek in the knee podcast.
Dude, that was a very
the knee got crazy. Derek and the knee got crazy.
It got very
unhinged.
It got very like, we're gonna put this one on the Patreon.
Wow.
Kind of, yeah.
We're gonna circle back to this in just a minute, but go ahead with your.
Okay. CDJs. Your transition from like a portable mixer laptop setup to a CDJ setup. Can you explain a little bit about like the difficultness between the transition and how in fact they are so much the same but so very different, and maybe a better way for DJs or producers that want to get into DJing, or other musicians that want to DJ that find themselves only knowing people that are doing bigger things, that only offer a CDJ setup when you go somewhere and won't allow boards to be moved around. Because typically it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, when you start, sometimes they'll let you bring your own stuff because they're adhering to your beginnerness and they want you to play a good show. So they'll move a platter or two for you to set your little 2-channel and your micro laptop so you can do your thing. Then you get in the middle of your experience of being a DJ and they're like, no, dude, play on these or we'll find someone else that can operate properly on CDJs. And then you get big enough to where you can call the fucking shots. You're like, move these fuckers. I got something else in here. What is your take on that? How did you combat your own? Because it's terrifying for everybody at first.
So to start, I would say that it just depends on the venue and the promoter that you're working with, whether or not they're going to provide CDJs. Because used to be, and some clubs still do this, they'll actually have their own CDJ setup
that stays there.
That's their house setup. Like that's theirs. You play on theirs.
They're hiring you to just be there with a thumb drive
to play music. They're not. I mean, obviously,
it's just like a singer songwriter.
To be a professional DJ, to do like what you're supposed to do, professionally. You're not just getting hired to play music. Anyway, so it deals with what they are providing and how much they are like, okay, we have CDJs, but you can bring yours, or we only have CDJs and we don't have room for anything else. I know I wasn't even going to say anything because Judgy McJudge Pants is in my head. But we'll get it next time. It's okay. Anyway, so like I think that depends on a lot of it, but it's also just like an industry standard for you to, once you get to a certain point, like people expect you to be able to play on CDJs, so they're less likely to accommodate. But then, like you said, if you're, there's some artists who only like to play on
Zed,
like a launch pad or something like that.
Like Zed's whole thing,
right?
Why does he do that? I don't understand.
That's just how they like to play music. I mean, but it's different for everybody because some people also like to like whip out a guitar while they're playing.
You got that Griffin or Sullivan King kind of thing.
Oh yeah, so, I mean even
also Griffin's a dick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, total dick.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Sullivan King is not.
I can't imagine he would be.
Sullivan King is the most pleasant person. Like, he screams and stuff like that, and you think he's one way, and then you talk to him, and he's like the sweetest person ever.
Well, it takes a smart human being -- musician to play metal and to compose metal. And more often than not, if they're not complete bags of trash, they're extremely intelligent and very straight-laced.
Yeah, no, he's a super great guy. I ran...
Right? Am I wrong?
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. But, yeah, Sullivan King, we went to a show. We're off in left field again, but fuck it.
It's our show, dude. It's our fucking show.
We can do it. I went to a Black Tiger Sex Machine show.
God, they are so fucking good.
They are good.
God.
They were playing in New Orleans, and me and Chelsea were walking down the street on our way to the show, and we walked by this restaurant, and formerly the 3 members of Black Tiger Sex Machine, because there's only 2 of them now, but back when it was 3, all 3 of them, Sullivan King and Kaiwachi, were just sitting at a table outside eating dinner.
Kaiwachi was there?
And Kaiwachi. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, you guys are Black Tiger Sex Machine, Kaiwachi, and Sullivan King. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, we're on our way to the show right now. I said, you guys are like so cool. And I forgot
no
how
photo.
to speak. And I was like,
forgot words. What are words? What are words?
I was like, ugh, like I just mouth vomit, and it was crazy.
Made a fool of yourself.
And yeah, I mean, and then I'll put the picture right here in the clip or something like that. But Chelsea was like, "Can we take a picture?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure," and whatever. I clearly have no idea what's going on because my eyes are closed.
You've got to send me that photo. You've got to send me that photo.
I'll send it to you, but I'll put it in the clip too, bro. Like you can very clearly tell it was one of those I don't know what to do with my hands moments.
Did you walk away doing this?
I didn't walk away because I was still so dumbfounded. I was like, that was Black Tiger Sex Machine, Kaiwachi, and Sullivan King. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy because they are huge influences on my music. So I was like geeked. And then by the time I
figured Kaiwachi would be more of an influence.
Kaiwachi is a massive influence.
Black Tiger is like Tech House, Space House, like that heavy, like
it's
knife
like
party punch.
It's like a dark electro kind of stuff. But I mean, they still are influence or whatever. But Kaiwachi's huge influence.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I was just geeked afterwards, and then walked to the venue and had the show, and then on our way back, and like I saw the picture. I think when I saw the picture for the first time, I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, I could have handled that so much better. I was like, I could have something. I could have.
And then you go, babe.
I could have been like,
where were you at? All right, like. You watched me just fucking bust my ass socially? What the fuck was that about?
So bad.
Why didn't you step in and save me?
I've done that a few times meeting artists where I just like completely forget how to talk and just lose myself. I'm better at it now, but I've done it a few times and I was like, God, my career might be in a different place if I knew how to handle those situations better.
I've done that, but I've done that when I was younger, but I chalk it up to like being young and like just living in the house that all the bands would come and stay at.
Word, yeah.
I got better at it. The only time for real, I probably since that era, this is the reason why I'm so strict on it. I treat everyone the same. Like I don't get too, I feel like that's why I have whatever little connections in the music scene that I do is because I will go out of my way to just be like, hey, easy, Tyler.
Right.
Only person I fucked up with wasn't even a musician. It was a pro surfer. And Sterling Spencer, his dad owned Interlight. I watched him compete for so long, and I shopped at his dad's store, and then Instagram came out, and I followed his little comedy routines that he would do, and then I ran into him at Hangout. Ironically, Hangouts this weekend. That's bizarre. So actually, this time, like 8 years ago, ironically, we're talking about this, I had like this moment.
Yeah, right.
And it was dumb. It was absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. No, I've fangirled at the wrong time so many times that I eventually learned from it.
That's so, like,
so I'm better about it now, but yeah, there's been plenty of times in the past where I just fangirled way too hard.
Yeah.
And I think I scared the person I was talking to, and
You're like, I didn't like that feeling. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, I was like, I don't ever want to feel that cringy about myself ever again.
I think it's different now because like I think the most like the highest level connection that I have like musically is the drummer for A Day to Remember is a buddy of mine.
He's from Pensacola, isn't he?
They're from Ocala.
Ocala, that's right.
And then I know like Yellow Wolf's people a little bit, which you knew.
Cool.
But that was all because of like not well, the Day to Remember thing, that's a long time thing. That was like I was a youth when I met those guys and just maintained a relationship with Alex. The Yellow Wolf dudes though is because I knew Amadeus. Amadeus is like not like a front and ass type dude. Like if you're not cool, he don't fuck with you.
Right.
Just like you just be cool and like treat them like they actually do wipe their ass with the same toilet paper you do, and like they're not some god.
Right.
They appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what
it goes a long way.
What I eventually had to figure out was like they're just human beings just like us, and
it goes so far. Because they get so much praise. It's like, look, a free bag of candy is the shit until you're halfway through it and you're like, I need some like real food. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is too sweet. Yeah. I need some like real. Why am I so heavy on the metaphors today?
I don't know, but they're solid. Like every metaphor you'd use is just solid. And like it takes me a minute to even realize what you're talking about because you're like bag of candy, blah blah. And I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? Bag of candy.
And then I close it.
And then you close it. And I'm like, oh wow. I was like, that would painted a perfect mental picture.
Damn.
That was even like the cake one when you did. You're like, I've got this cake, and then I stick my hand in it. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my! When I was
is
making
he talking
music
about?
Yeah.
And he was like, and then I take it out and the bits of pieces on my hand and I was like, dude, no way, that makes so much sense. Oh my god!
I kind of thought you were patronizing me just for a second. You were just like gaslighting my ass.
No, like that was the thing is I was like, and that's why I even said I was like that painted a beautiful picture because it did because I was lost when you're like cake and hand.
What the fuck is
and I was
this
like, what is he talking about? And then he's like, and then I take it out and the music is on my hand, and I'm like, oh wow, and it's like beautiful, like well done, like snaps, like beautiful job.
Thanks, man. Writer over here, hopeless romantic. Sometimes it bleeds into creatives.
To go back to what our original conversation was,
CDJs,
which was probably an hour ago.
Yeah, they're like, shut up, guys.
Some up and coming DJ was like, talk about the CDJs because that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
like, you know what?
So back to the CDJs. Back to the CDJs. So the way I would literally tell somebody is like, get comfortable on a controller, knowing what to do, and then the first time you play on CDJs, give yourself like 5 to 10 minutes to figure out where all the buttons are.
That's
just look and get familiar with where everything is and where, so while you're playing, you're not like looking for something. Get familiar with what everything is and you're set. Because my transition from a controller to CDJs rough. For the first time
was rough.
It was rough for those first 5 to 10 minutes because I was panicking. But I gave myself that like 5 to 10 minutes to go over and look at the CDJs and be like, okay, here's this button, here are these buttons, here are the, all this and all blah, 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 blah.
Relatively speaking, it's the same.
It's the same except bigger. And there's more options. There's a few more controls. There's a few more options.
The consistency of the panel and the knobs are much different.
It's a small difference, but just getting familiar with the controller, getting familiar with the CDJs, opposed to what you're familiar with your controller is the biggest learning curve. For me, anyway, that was the biggest learning curve. Because once you know how to mix music and when to bring in songs and knowing how to do stuff, CDJs have become so advanced that it's not like how it used to be where you had to know so much about a song. Like you actually put in a CD into a CDJ and pick the song and go through your music that way. Like it's like pulling up something on Serato. Basically now it's that simple.
Well, Record Box, that's kind of how most CDJs are nowadays.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure like, I mean, standard, right? You have to use Rekordbox.
Yeah, mostly.
Rekordbox is a little different from Serato, not that different. Again, it's just getting familiar with
it. But it's strictly for CD. Like, Rekordbox is not going to be on like $100 controller. Rekordbox typically comes with is the software that will come with.
It's more advanced,
a more expensive set of platters,
right? And I mean, but it is standard typically for CDJs. But you can also get some controllers that do play Rekordbox, that do use Rekordbox the same way that you would use CDJs.
I know Tractor does that too. They're pretty heavy on that.
Right. So I mean, like, the main difference is just getting familiar with the controls. But if you know how to mix music, you know, like basic phrasing of music. And like, you know, you're familiar with the music that you're playing, i.e. when a build up or a drop is about to hit, or you know that like this verse comes before this, or this chorus is about to come in here or something. Like, being familiar with your music and knowing basic phrasing and mixing and stuff like that it's a kind of a seamless transition. It's a little bit of a build, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's nothing like, it's not like playing on like legit turntables for the first time. Like actually flipping records and playing on vinyl.
Or like a rain system.
Right, exactly. It's not that big of a learning. It's not that big of a change.
To be honest, I'm surprised that's not your setup. What? Something like a rain setup.
Oh, I have.
In my mind, I'm thinking anytime I see shit like that, because you could DJ Snake that type of shit. You could like
that would be so much fun.
You're like, why the fuck does he have? Because that's his preferred.
Right.
Why don't you have that solenoid rain setup with each platter that has like
because it's expensive as fuck.
I know, but but like spending $6,000 on a mixing setup. I watched you have the same mixer for like 8 fucking years.
Because I don't have money. I'm still a broke musician. Like the studio I've built, the studio that you've seen in past episodes, I've been building that for years. Like since before I knew you was when I started building that. Built like the computer, the speakers, the treatment, like everything that's on that computer, which my brand new computer that I have now, I've had for less than a year because it took me that long. I used to use a Windows XP desktop computer that I had for ages. I mean, forever. And Chelsea finally convinced me. She was like, this is for your music. This is for your career. Invest your money into this computer. So I dropped like a couple grand on a computer to have like a solid.
You were thinking more production computer versus DJ.
Right. Yeah. Which is kind of where my head's at right now, is I want to put out music as opposed to,
what's more important to you?
What do you mean?
The ability to DJ or the ability to produce, if you had to pick one for forever and not do the other one ever again?
That's really tough because I started out as just a DJ, as only DJing. I don't want to say just a DJ.
I don't know. Okay, write originals for the rest of your life and get to do that for forever and they're all great. Or the ability to play, but you can only play what you've created thus far and covers from there on out, and that's it. I have a hard time coming up with an answer for that.
I haven't.
It's kind of like coming up with like, well, we won't say that because we may lose fans for that. Never mind. I was about to say something way off. Yeah, way off. Yeah.
No, that is difficult. That I don't know if I could pick between, because I love both. I started out as only DJing. Uh-oh. We'll have to blur that out. Put a big blurry thing.
It's gonna cover it.
Anyway, no.
CDJs, like the transitions and stuff.
The learning curve wasn't that bad from a controller to CDJs. It's just getting familiar with the actual setup. And then I would love to have the turntable setup, like you said, where you have like
the rain setup.
Yeah, I think that would be cool, but that's hella expensive, and I just don't have that kind of money. And I'm investing more money into my production setup than my live setup, because when I play live, I can play on CDJs, and mostly what I'm doing with my live setup now is doing live vocals. If I'm doing anything like live per se, like I was saying earlier, some people break out a guitar, or some people play like on a
so when you
launch pad and
record,
they're actually doing stuff like that. But I'm actually like doing vocals live.
I love
now.
a launch pad. That
the launch pad's fun, like if for some styles of music, but
I don't know how to write electronic music without a launch pad.
I mean, like I said, it's fun to use, and
I've tried to do it like completely organically, just off like any sound, and building something off just one little sound.
Yeah.
And it takes forever, and then the product is always so bare. It's like I need the launch pad to like help
give you that human feel.
Yeah, that
push, human aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah. My hardest transition from the controller to the CDJs was the screens and how slow the ribbons would move. And
you can adjust that. That's a setting thing.
I do. I know that, but it seems like every time I'm around CDJs, I'm told to not adjust it, or there's things that are going on with like the CDJs where like one of the ribbons is moving faster than the other, and like, dude, it's just the most overwhelming thing. It took me bumping my ass hard, like hard to graduate to where I'm at now behind CDJs, where I'm just like, okay, if I can give you like a B plus or A minus type DJ set with my personal 4-channel, I am going to give you like a C minus set on CDJs, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel you.
And it's like, I'm going to need like a day prior.
That is honestly like the best advice I could give, is if you have the opportunity to spend like
just takes a day
just playing with it and just figuring out where everything is and how everything works and doing all that stuff, because the learning curve isn't that steep. It's just getting familiar with everything, and if so, you can have that day to play with it and to just again figure out how everything works and how you can use everything to your like advantage, like
but it's a must. It's a fucking must.
Yeah, no, it's again, I mean, but it's just like playing with your controller for the first time, except if
yeah, but you develop a style with a controller.
Exactly. Though. But you can also develop a style with CDJs if you have them to play with every single day.
Nobody does. That's what I'm saying.
Very few people do, because I mean, the people who own the CDJs can.
And typically, they're not even ones using it. They own them to rent them out.
You know? No, for sure. But I mean, like, there are some DJs who have their own CDJs and they get to play with them and stuff like that. And so they get really good and they build their style on CDJs and stuff like that.
Have you never thought about buying a used pair for $4 or $5, $6 grand?
I mean, I've talked to people about going in and just like splitting the cost.
This brand new set's like $12K.
Oh yeah, no, like a brand new set
like
is
$12K.
Yeah. Shane he just bought some used 2000s, and
spent $4,000, probably $4,000, I'm sure.
He definitely didn't spend as much as he would have if he bought them new, but they're good. They're in great condition. And then he bought the brand new.
I love Shane. Shout out Shane.
Yeah, shout out Shane, Invasion Entertainment, big homie. And then he bought the new like A9 mixer that just came out. That's like the top of the line mixer. That cost him.
So he got a brand new motor in a slightly old car.
Roughly, yeah. And but it works great. We used that for the last show, and that was the first time. The most fun part was we rented those from him, and we got them for the weekend because he was out of town. So our show was on Thursday. I picked him up from him on. No, our show was on Friday. I picked him up from him on Thursday, and I didn't have to give him back to him until Monday because that's when he got back in town. So Thursday, Saturday, or Thursday and Sunday, because I was dead to the world on Saturday after the show. Thursday and Sunday, I just set those bitches up in my studio and played on them for a couple hours just to play with them and just have fun, because I've never had CDJs in my house to just play with like that. So I got to do that, and yeah, that was so much fun. Just to do that and play music and have fun with it.
Well, I find the jump to be a little more mentally theatrical than than your approach. I think it's just, I don't know, like if my controller broke and I needed to use yours, no problem. I could just like borrow your guitar, you know? This is not just borrowing someone's guitar.
I think another aspect is because you use your computer with a controller, so you kind of have like, I had this problem too. And
but wait, I know what you're about to say, but I will say, I was given a piece of advice a long time ago, and I'm pretty good about not being on my laptop. My main focus is looking at my mixer. Even when I had the one with the screen, when I had the NV2, I had the ones with the little 5-inch screens.
Yeah.
I still try to stay off my laptop.
I was just going to say the organization of it, because I know I have everything on my laptop. Because, yeah, you have the screen, and, like, you know, the older DJs are going to be like, oh, well, I don't need a screen to mix music and blah, blah, blah. But that, whatever. That's the old jaded people.
Finding shit, navigating was not the problem. It was laying out the track.
My thing was knowing where everything was, like my music wise, because I felt constricted using just a flash drive and like only having 8 to 16 gigs of music as opposed to my entire music library on my computer. And I felt like even though I had all those options on my computer and I wasn't going to use them, just knowing that they were there made me more comfortable than knowing I only had 40 or 50 songs on a flash drive for like an hour set.
Right.
I'm only going to play 30 to 40 songs, but just knowing that I only had those 40 or 50 to play with
stressed you out.
That stressed me out a little bit. Whereas I'm only going to play the same 30 or 40 songs in an hour.
Are you that improv? That
sometimes it depends. What?
Nothing.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's crazy. We shot for an hour already.
Have we?
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, good.
No. But sometimes I'm really improv. Sometimes, again, it just depends on the night and the set and the vibe and all that. Like, I'll plan out to a certain extent what I'm going to play and then give myself wiggle room, which I'll do that with CDJs too. I just can't give myself as much wiggle room to where, like, I'm going to play this, and then if I decide I want to go this route, I can, but I've only got 10 songs to play with if I decide to go that route. Or if I'm going to go this route, I've only got, like, you know, I can only do this for a certain amount of time, and then I have to go back to this or something like that. I just feel like I don't have as much room to play with on CDJs as I do on a controller. So I guess that was a big difference too. But like, not mixing or anything like that, performing wise, it's more like it has to be more structured.
As someone now who's like booking booking shows, and like, you're not necessarily on just the entertainment end of it now, you're more on the
business,
but like boots on the ground kind of thing, you know,
behind
like,
the scenes more than
anything.
Like
you're like marching to the order of your own design. Are you going to be more open to having other artists come in that have, you know, like you previously said, some people who don't even use controllers at all? Like, they're like, I just use a mixer and my laptop, or I just use like an Akai pad and my iPad and put them right next to each other. Like, there's people who make electronic music that are DJs now that don't even use any of the typical thing.
I'm always open to working with I always want to give an artist the ability to work with whatever they want to work with. I'll offer them, like, hey, we're gonna have CDJs. If you want to play on those, you're more than welcome to. Usually, like I said, industry standard, a lot of people are okay working with that,
unless they know that they're booking you and that's your shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll offer that, but if they say, hey, I'd rather play on my controller, hey, I'd rather play on an Akai, you know, launch pad, or I'd rather play on whatever they want to play with, I will make accommodations for them in order to, because I want them to perform comfortably.
Yeah.
And I want them to have the room to express themselves creatively that they are most comfortable with. So I'm never going to tell somebody, no, you have to play on this. No, you have to use this.
Because we've both been told that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's been plenty of times where it's like, you have to play on CDJs, or we're not going to have anything for you, and you have to bring your own setup. Or
there's also been that.
I was going to say, it's been both. But the worst is when they don't give you a heads up and they just say like, you show up with your controller thinking that you're going to play on your controller, and they're like, no, you're playing on CDJs. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. I don't have anything ready to go, like on a flash drive or anything like that. And they're just like, tough, like you have 10 minutes. And I was like, fuck. And so you got to just go and throw some shit on a flash drive and get it ready and just kind of do everything on the fly. And it's, you're just flying by the seat of your pants at that point. And it's, so I always want to I just give people the notice to say like, hey, we're going to have this for you, but what do you want to play on?
Feel free to bring your own stuff.
Yeah, feel free to bring your own stuff if you want to. Actually, at the last show, we had 2 CDJs and a mixer, and one of the artists showed up with his own CDJs, and he was like, can I hook these up?
Oh, and he
wanted to play on 4. And I was like, we'll accommodate you as much as we possibly can, but our table will only fit like
2.
Well, it fit 3. We were able to fit a third one on there. And he was like, well, I guess this is better than 2. And I was like, if that works for you, it works for us. Like, I always want to accommodate, but I need to know ahead of time. Like, there needs to be some communication. I'm going to communicate with you, and if you don't want to play on what we're offering, you communicate with me and say, hey, I'm bringing this, or I need this.
Well, I'm more time for a reset up.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Which, he brought his own, we figured it out, we made it work and stuff like that. He just didn't get to play on 4, he only played on 3. But, again, honestly, I want to give people as much room to be creative as possible.
Whenever I mix, I only use 3 channels anyway. I use the 4th for a sample channel, so I could throw funny stuff on there and have that geared up for like comic relief or just any sort of like ambiance to a song that doesn't already have it in there that I think sounds better, so that's whatever. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. That's cool though. And so your third one, have y'all thought about playing on that yet?
Weird,
because I'm interested and I feel bad for not going.
No, you're good. I mean, we've talked about it, and we already had a meeting after the last one. We had a meeting, and then we're gonna have another meeting and talk about like what direction we're gonna go in for the next one and when we want to do it, and just figuring out where everything has gone smoothly thus far. The few little hiccups that we have had, we're just figuring out how to iron those out so we can make it an even better experience every single time. Because
are y'all sticking at the music box
for right now? Because like I was saying earlier,
did they enjoy having y'all?
Oh yeah, yes, they the bar owners and the venue owner and the bar manager and the venue owner. And like even the staff were all like when are you guys doing this again? We'd love to have you back. Like this was a great show.
They make a lot of money.
Yeah, they made a ton of money. On the last one, they made good money.
A ton of money.
And so like everybody's happy. Everybody was happy at the end of the day, and they want us to come back and stuff like that. Our only problem is the Music Box is a very intimate venue, where their max capacities, they are claiming it's 250. And if we ever get to a point where it becomes uncomfortable for our crowd to all fit in there, then we may need to move. But I don't think that's...
Would you just move to the lobby room and at the kitchen?
Maybe, because I think that one's a little bit bigger. But like ultimately, Soul Kitchen's venue, our capacity is 2,500 as opposed to 250.
But that front room though.
But the front room I think was about roughly the 250, 300 range, probably.
Is it?
Maybe a little bit bigger. Maybe probably like 400 or 500, maybe.
I was about to say, because I think I've played that entry room like 3 or 4 times, 3 times. And
I guess it's bigger than 300. It's probably closer to 4 or 5.
I remember playing in front of like 20 people there, and then like 200 or 300 people there.
It's probably closer to 4 or 5, maybe
maybe not 5.
4. Okay, we'll just call it 4 for the sake of argument. So
what about the Merry Widow though?
Merry Widow is also, it's bigger.
What about Alchemy?
Alchemy, there's no way. Alchemy's small. Alchemy's tiny.
Even some of the... What about the back?
Between both floors.
They wouldn't let you play in the back anyway.
You mean outside? Yeah. No, because we'd be so loud. And then Mobile has a weird noise ordinance now.
It's got to be inside.
It's got to be inside after a certain time. And yeah, it's...
Inside after 9, but can't play past 11.
Oh, I don't know the specifics of it, but I just know that we couldn't play for as long as we wanted to play and for as loud as we want to play in downtown Mobile because of the ordinance. But so Music Boxes says their capacity is 250. We did about 130 or 140 at this last one, and it was thick. Like it was, and so I don't know if we could legitimately fit 250 in there, but once we get to a point where it's uncomfortable for our crowd to be in there because there's so many people, then we might consider moving. But again, we're still building. This is our first year. Like
only show 2.
Yeah, we're not in that realm yet of finding a bigger
even
venue.
Trying to think about that.
I mean, we've thought about it just because, like I said, this last one there were so many people. Like it was crowded, but it wasn't uncomfortably crowded. But like, ideally, Soul Kitchen's like 2,500, so 10 times the amount of people. Can we sell that out? Can we fill that up or whatever? And I mean the full venue. Like the front room's fine, but like if we're gonna upgrade to something that big, I want to be able to sell it out and like actually get that many people in a building.
Yeah, but I mean, I've been to a sold out show at the Soul Kitchen in the big room, and they still don't allow people to go all the way to the back. They still allow breathing room. It's kind of like real thick, and then right at that bar, it starts to break up.
Well, and that's how I want it. I never want it to be so uncomfortably like elbow to elbow. That. Do
you think you could pull like something that would even necessitate having that room?
Eventually, I'd like to.
How much? But that's such a financial jump, though, between the injury.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's in our first year. Like we're not even considering that at this point. But I would love to eventually, but not right now. Maybe.
But you'd have to start working with certain people I don't think you'd want to work with.
And see, like we're not even to that far advanced into the whole like back end of it. Like we haven't grown that much in 6 months. Like we haven't.
Are you willing to take on like other DJ driven partners and businesses and things like that?
Like team up with other production companies? Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing we've talked about is we want to eventually work with other people to help us build the scene, because that's ultimately why we did this. We didn't go into it to make money. We did this to bring back an experience to the music scene that our music scene is currently lacking. We are trying to provide the experience and provide the shows that other companies haven't brought us and that we wanted to see for ourselves. So we're just providing the experience for the crowd that we as music lovers would like to see
versus what's going on now or their lack of.
I think, because there's some stuff going on in Mobile. There's not a ton of stuff, not like it used to be back before, 2020, the pandemic hit and everything tanked. We actually had a pretty like lively scene where there's always something going on. Like every weekend you had something to do, and there was always an electronic event or a hip hop event, or there was always something going on. And then everything crashed when the pandemic hit. And then as everything's starting to come back, like you see all the people who are like, I don't want to be in Mobile anymore. And they kind of move on. Or, rest in peace, Seth. We lost one of the best hip hop promoters in the city. And now we're not, we're still trying to fill that void. So we're trying to get more hip hop shows, like, because we just
Tim seems like he's booking a show every other month or every month.
Tim's doing a great job. Shout out Tim OG. That's the hip hop artist out of Mississippi who I work with. He's doing a great job booking shows. And where does he
live?
He's in Moss Point now. Yeah. He was in, no. He's in Gaucher now. He was in Moss Point, and then he just moved to Gaucher. But it's all Jackson County, Mississippi. Yeah. But yeah, shout out Tim. That's my brother. Like, if you guys have never met him before, nice guy too. Yeah, like that's Tim's family, just like Ty. And we're everybody's homies, everybody's fam. Like I would yeah,
you do roll with
just for them.
You do have like your 5 guys, man.
Oh yeah,
seems absolutely. Like you're 4 or 5 guys. You
absolutely.
Got Jason, you got Tim, me, and Will,
and then there's a few other people who I would go to bat for and like put my name on the line for and stuff like that. I mean, Shane DJ'd.
Oh, Shane.
I was about to say.
Sorry, Shane.
No, I was going to say Shane would have been my groomsman if he wasn't my DJ.
Yeah.
So, like,
Shane, wasn't your dad your groomsman?
My dad was my other groomsman, yeah. And obviously my dad. Yeah. Yeah, no, and that was the funny thing is Shane would have been my groomsman, but I would have allowed anyone else to be my DJ for my wedding. So that's why I put him as my DJ.
I would have been, all right, Ty, you can just come to the wedding. I was hey, look, I was the alternate.
No, you weren't the alternate.
I'm just kidding. Where's my beer? My Busch Light, and that's what it is. It just, they put extra dye on the can, and they misspelled a few things. You got like purists on there being like, they goddamn sure did. It's the same fucking beer, idiot.
I remember what I was going to talk about earlier. You said something about putting it on the Patreon. I was listening to a podcast on the way over here, a new podcast that I'd never listened to before. I'm not going to say the name because I'm about to shit on it really bad. They spent the first 15 minutes of the podcast. I got
so excited for a second.
Sorry. They put the first 15 minutes of the podcast. All they did was they tried to convince you to like, follow, subscribe, and join their Patreon for like 10 to 15 minutes of the podcast. And I was like, you haven't even told me what this episode's about to be like. And then they started talking, and you could tell that it was scripted. You could tell that they were reading the whole time, and every once in a while they'd jump in and like have some like banter for like 30 seconds, and then they'd go back to
highlighted that it was fake as shit.
They'd go back to reading the script, and you could tell just by their tone that they're reading, as opposed to when they go off script and talk for a second and then they start reading again. And I was like, this is awful. And it made me realize that we're not doing that bad of a job, because we're actually having a conversation and it's not scripted, and we're just talking about stuff that we want to talk about and that whatever.
Like-minded people will find.
Exactly. And so that's how I know that we're doing a decent job, because this podcast was on Spotify, and within 20 minutes of listening to it on the way here,
done with it.
I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. I was trying to get inspiration for something to talk about, and it was something about like aliens and Stonehenge and stuff like that. And I was like, this will be interesting. I got 20 minutes into it and learned how heavy the blocks are at Stonehenge and how awful those people are doing at shooting a podcast. And I was like, fuck this, and went to something else.
Fuck this. See, I don't
so to justify that, saying that, like, the fact that we're not trying to sell you a Patreon subscription, and we're not telling you to like and subscribe for 15 to 20 minutes before we even get the show started, I think we're doing a pretty good job at shooting this podcast.
Hey,
right here.
Yeah. Go us, man.
Go us. We're doing good.
Look at us go.
Anyway, so we do have a Patreon. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I like the visual podcasting, because unless I'm going to sleep or I'm at work, if I'm like involved in a podcast, it's got to be visual. You know, and I consume so much music and so much podcasting. It's always going. It's always playing something. And and the flies are heavy today.
That's okay. That's what happens on a Porchcast.
That's right. And I was kind of hoping for some rain. That would have been cool
That would have been cool, but hey, the sun's nice too. It's a pleasant day.
It is.
We'll have to find out if you can hear all the birds chirping in the background, because that makes it pleasant too.
I'm pretty sure you can.
I hope so, because it just adds to the
We're all going to get a cease and desist from the birds.
It's just the letter's going to say tweet, 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 tweet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then underneath it, it's going to say in parentheses, shut the fuck
and likeness
up.
Of. Yeah, and likeness of. What was I saying?
You like having the visual podcast.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of bad podcasts out there. I don't particularly like to go in the podcast route if they're about something like murder mystery, or the only thing that I really enjoy that is like topic based is Hawk vs. Wolf, Tony Hawk and Jason Ellis's podcast, and it's always some sort of skateboarding going on,
right?
And then the Dale Jr. download where it's Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, I know Dale Jr. I just think it's funny because I can definitely see you watching Dale Jr. just talk about whatever.
He's funny, and like his conversation with the guy he does the podcast with is a guy named Mike Davis, and he used to help run his pit. So their relationship and their brotherhood, like where they just argue about certain things, it's kind of cool, but also like he was a popular driver when I was growing up, so the things he talks about driving wise outside of him being just funny are things that I know. So it's
relatability.
It's relatable. It was an era of racing that I was a part of, so it's like I remember that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But other than that, it's like Theo, Chris, Impulsive, or the Bobby Bones show or shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like all just open format about music, but it'll bleed into like being a parent or this or that or whatever,
That was actually the podcast I switched
Bailey Sirian is good though.
Who?
Bailey Sirian. It's a fairly attractive tattooed female who does murder mystery stuff.
I was going to say, there's some murder mystery ones that I actually like listening to. They're just fun to listen to. And, if they tell the story the right way, and it's actually interesting to listen to.
I just don't. I don't, because they all cover the same people.
Well, you can only cover so many murder mysteries unless you're out there committing them, and then you're like, you guys should hear about this murder mystery.
Yeah.
And you're like, how does he know all this stuff already? It just happened last weekend.
That's the suspect.
Yeah.
Well, she's cool, and my ex-wife got me into her, so I just kind of... But I like non-format, like open format.
Open format, yeah.
Yeah, it's type shit.
Conversations.
Banter shit.
Yeah. No, but that was actually when I turned off the...
Fuck your scripts, Spotify piece of shit podcast.
Not all of them on Spotify, but some of them.
This particular Spotify podcast, fuck this one.
This particular one. When I turned that one off, I put on it's the back-to-back podcast with Willie Joy. I said I liked Willie Joy as one of my favorite ones, and I thought it was just called the Willie Joy podcast. It's the back-to-back podcast with Willie Joy.
Fuck that podcast.
Not that one.
Oh,
the Willie Joy one's the good one. The back-to-back was the one that I put on after the shitty one. The poopy podcast. About Stonehenge and aliens, and which I thought would be super interesting because it's about aliens, and it was super boring. Anyway.
But that's why Joe is so good.
Because
I never know what you're going to get.
I like when Joe talks about aliens because he actually gives you like proof and like interesting like tidbits and thoughts and like
places to go to further research.
Exactly.
Shit.
Like it's actually interesting to listen to, where it's not scripted either. Anyway, I went to the back-to-back podcast with Willie Joy, and he was talking to the guys that do Space Yacht out in LA, and like they're doing shows and they're running a label, and they're also like just heavily involved with music, but they weren't only talking about music. They were talking about like all this other stuff that they do, and it was primarily about music, but it was also open format to the point where they were just talking about stuff. See, it's interesting.
That's why I like this past weekend with Theo. That's why I like that, because it's like typically his episodes with Riff Raff highlight the shit out of that, because
Riff Raff's just such a fucking character,
isn't he? And he's so smart too. People don't give him brain credit. Like, he looks kind of silly and he acts silly, but catch him in those moments, you're like,
he knows what he's doing.
Damn, okay. Yeah. And it's like, I remember being a Theo fan and even seeing him live once, even before this. That was 2019 or it had just turned 2020. It was like, no, it was about to be 2020. It was December 26, 2019. It's about to be 2020. We saw him live in Covington, Louisiana, his hometown, with Dustin Poirier, the UFC boxer. He was there speaking a little bit too, which is super cool. Before I realized that the reason why I like Theo so much is not because he's funny or because he's like a good interviewer, like most podcasts. Even the comics can be good interviewers. Right. When Theo has somebody on his podcast, he's not talking to the guest. The guest is in the room with Theo.
Yeah.
And experiencing what a conversation with Theo Von is like. And you'll be talking about like, okay, good example. When the new Morgan Wallen record came out like 2 months ago, he had, I think, who was it? It was Nick Swardson, I think, who was on this particular episode. And they talked about Last Night, which was the record that's on the radio right now. Right. And from that actual album. And he did like this Mexican Spanish accent where he was like, last night we let the liquor talk, and sang the song, and like you think it's like the bit is over, and then he just keeps going, and you're like, you can tell that Nick is trying to move on from the conversation and then in the background you just hear, last night we let the Lakers talk. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, this man doesn't interview people. He sends you a letter and he says, hey, do you want to come experience an hour of your life in a room with me?
Yeah, just come have a conversation with me for an hour. We'll record it. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't even have to bring up any of the reason why you're doing Hot Ones or this other podcast. Just come here and talk about nothing. He had Morgan Wallen on the podcast, and then Ernest showed up, and then Hardy showed up, and all of a sudden, like, the whole fucking podcast just went left. And it was like, they're all four talking about nothing. And then it was in the middle. Hardy was like, yeah, I was just looking for a bathroom, and I heard y'all talking, and I walked in here. And it's like, what the fuck is happening? Same thing with when Theo had Podcastville and Bobby Lee walked in. It was like, that wasn't even a planned guest. That was the best episode.
Hell yeah.
Like, and then Bobby Lee and Logan Paul start talking, and then a year later, Bobby Lee's on Impulsive and then pisses George off, and George was just on Two Bears One Cave in the same studio, where I'm like, this is the type of podcasting I like, where there's nothing really to talk about. People are just like showing up in each other's studios.
You get like this whole like extended
organicism.
You get this whole like extended universe of podcasts that just like somehow they're all connected, like through these these tiny connections and stuff like that.
It's so
cool.
But
then it leads you to like more podcasts and stuff, and it's crazy.
But you know why that happened though? That goes back to Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is the reason why that happens, because he owns the On It Studios, and it's like this big building full of rooms that all of his friends rent. So it's like, yeah, like the top was Podcastville, and then in the back room where the office was Joe's original studio, and then below that was, I think, the original Burtcast, the original Fighterverse Kid, and then what became King and the Sting, and then below there was like the headquarters for everything, and then below that was like the office, and it was like, no wonder everybody's best friends,
I was gonna say Joe Rogan's like the Thanos of like the Marvel universe, and he's just like bringing everybody together.
He's
and you've got all these different people who are like, you've got like your Avengers up here, and your Spider-Man's working over here, and all this stuff, and then they all kind of interlock, and
no, it's fucking great, dude. And like, I think that's why he's so well loved, because like he's got a connection, he's got the ability
with so many different people.
But then his guest are so many different people. You're like, what in the fucking fruit is happening? Like, how do you, but then you're like, well, everybody loved Joe Rogan back during the Fear Factor days. It was just like, you know, he was the great host. He was like, and then not only that, people who liked, like who were plugged into comedy, like basically every SNL fan or Mad TV fan loved News Radio. And he was the funny male guy on News Radio. So it was like, He was destined to be like whatever badass he is wherever he's at, which I guess is Austin now.
Again, that's all about making connections, which we were talking about way before this podcast even started. This episode even started, was making those connections and knowing the right people and the right people knowing you, and how
that is true. We did talk about that.
How much it helps to advance your career, and in anything, in music, in comedy, in
Mr.
acting,
Fort Walton.
Yeah, I'm playing in Fort Walton in a couple weeks. But so no, it's just a lot of people think that it's like the fame and superstardom and stuff like that just comes from one day you hit it big and there's just a bunch of people knocking at your door trying to book you or pay you for whatever you're doing, and that unfortunately that's just not how it works.
No, you either have a Post Malone story or you have a Tiesto story.
I was even gonna say,
you have a luck story, or half my nose is gone because I ran it into the ground.
Mostly it's the running it into the ground thing. Rarely ever does it happen like it used to, where you're playing an open mic and the head of Sony or the head of Warner Brothers Records or not Warner Brothers Records, Warner Records is there, and they're just like, hey, I'm gonna sign you for $1 million, and then you're just this big star the next day. Like, that's not how it works. It's grinding your ass off to know the right people, to make sure the right people know you, and then helping it progress your career till you get to a point where the right people know who you are and they help you meet the right people, and then that's how you grow your career.
The opening scene in School of Rock is not a thing anymore. Like, where
exactly, I know. Yes, you're exactly right.
That doesn't happen anymore.
You don't get to play in, like I said, an open mic and
then have a guy look at the bar being like, leave.
Yeah, right.
It's like, because that guy's there to watch. It's like, man, that shit don't happen.
No.
Wayne's World type shit, that doesn't happen no more. And because everyone's got a team that gets paid to stay on Instagram,
right,
or TikTok.
And once you get big enough, you can do that team. I mean, for the independent artists who do it all themselves, it's a grind.
Well, I'm saying those labels that you're trying to be a part of, they have a team.
Yes.
That is like waiting for people like you to show up.
Yeah, you're not talking to the head of the company when you email somebody or anything like that. You're talking to somebody
Amanda
who's like
in
10
charge.
levels down.
Yeah.
And you got to get through her first, and then you got to get through her boss, and then his boss, and then their boss.
And no offense to myself or anyone watching this that is a fan of this, but she doesn't even fucking like electronic music. She fucking likes soft jazz or is like a country fan.
She's an intern for the summer.
So and she's in charge of the next fucking thing that's happening for that particular label.
That depends on the label you're going for, though. That some of the bigger labels are like that. If you go towards more like a niche label, that where everybody's on the same path, and then it's a little bit easier to break through. But again, like it's all about who you know.
Would you rather been in that world then or now?
Wait, what?
Like, would you rather be current now, like what you're doing in that world of electronic music and production and show building, or would you have rather been a part of a different timeline of music where you could have done that in a different taste and a different, you'd have different tools to use. You'd be dealing with magazines and newspapers instead of Instagrams and Facebooks. You'd be dealing with like, yep, this is the venue, and walking in, talking to so-and-so. Oh, well, he's not here, but he'll be here at 4. Okay. Setting an alarm,
come back at 4,
and like the footwork, where now it's just more like, let me check my email while also having a job.
I kind of feel both have their pros and cons, but like, back then, the hustle that I put in now
is almost like that.
By emailing and reaching out to people and stuff like that, it's the same hustle that you would do with the footwork stuff. Maybe the footwork stuff was a little bit easier access because there's not so many gatekeepers you have to go through, but you're still having to, I mean...
Do you believe that, though? Do you think there's less gatekeepers? Because I find that there is more. I feel like there was like 1 to 2, 3 pinnacle people. If you like busted through that shield
now
that they had.
Now there's more gatekeepers.
There's so many.
Now there's more gatekeepers.
Who the fuck put these fucks in charge?
The 3 to 4 people who used to do it, and then they realized that they could pay somebody to do it for them.
We're not talking about anyone specifically. We're just talking about like in a general term.
Yeah,
or at least I am.
I know. I feel you. The big heads of companies that were the 3 or 4 people who did used to be the only gatekeepers figured out that, or they got big enough to where they could pay somebody to be the gatekeeper to get to them. and then so on and so forth. And once the label's so big, you have your just ranks in a company. But like now, I can, like you said, I can email somebody and I can talk to people while having a job from Mobile, Alabama. Whereas
and you're booking a show in Memphis,
right? And where back then I had to live in L.A. or New York.
You've never even been to,
right? Yeah, I've done that before.
Just because you own a company,
I've talked to people where just because I have a presence on social media and I have my music on Spotify and I got my music in front of the right people through an email, I got booked in a venue that I've never played at before. So like that happened, and so it's kind of a little bit. It's still a hustle and it's still a grind, but it's a little bit easier than it used to be. Because like I said, you used to have to live in Memphis. You used to have to live in L.A.
Jeremy,
or New York.
What is that movie with Adam Sandler and Brendan Fraser where they take the radio station Airheads?
Airheads, yes, dude, yeah.
That if you did that now, you're not a musical savior like you once would have been. And been like, that's dope, dude. That's gonna be on MTV News in like 4 hours.
Right.
Now it's more like, what a fucking psychopath.
Yeah,
that dude's on the road with my child. Like he's on the road driving around and cars just past the same car that my child's in, and you wouldn't even know it. He's a psychopath. Back in the day, it was like, who is this man?
That's so punk rock.
Yes.
Like, sign them to a label right now. That's so cool. Now it's like, who are these psychopaths and who's listening to the radio to listen? Who's listening to the radio anyway? Why would you hijack a radio station?
Right? But you know what? Do you believe this is a good music cycle, I think, that we're getting on. Do you think that the radio is going to make a comeback?
No.
I do.
I think everything's moving towards Spotify and literally having any music you want to hear at your fingertips, to the point where people aren't going to listen to the radio hoping they get to hear their favorite song.
But that was my point, is that I think there's going to be like a resurgence of like, not necessarily to the definition, but like vintage, like aesthetics, the way that people consume music, kind of like records and tapes have come back. I never let CDs go. I obviously still do what everybody else does. I have Spotify and SoundCloud and, shit like that. But, YouTube too, but there's a certain level of like, okay, I will say this. There's 2 radio stations I really, really like. The Zoo, 92.1, and then 94.9, which is our local country station. And the reason why I like the local country station is because they play artists that I love. And I found those artists through veins of like social media music, like YouTube, Spotify, via Instagram. And they're playing them now, like Bailey Zimmerman, Jordan Davis, Mitchell Tenpenny, Morgan Wallen, Hardy, Ernest, all that stuff I like, with only a few things I don't like. Same thing with the Zoo. I have a huge attachment to like, I like to call it backroads indie, but like it's really just indie music, stuff like Wilco, Decemberist, Band of Horses.
Kind of like an alternative type,
like
stuff.
Flannel indie,
yeah, Got you.
And I'm really into that. And they play dance indie and flannel indie all the fucking times. And I found that I like these radio stations because of the collective sounds I found other places. I think the idea that people will get tired of the mass consumption, kind of like they do. It's kind of like the approach where you hear people every now and again, and we've spoke about it before, going from the touchscreen phone back to the flip phone, just to kind of cut some noise out. You know what I mean? Like if you got a good enough, well-functioning enough laptop, it's like, okay, I can get my work done when I'm at my laptop and when I so choose to be around my laptop. But when I'm away from here, I'm literally experiencing life. I'm only taking phone calls and text. I'm not, and the occasional email. I can't get on my Instagram. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's like I'm unplugging from the prefabricated world and plugging into the more organic world, replugging myself back into the organic world. And I think, and I could be wrong, and I very well could be wrong, I would like to think that I think highly enough of humanity and the personalities that everybody mixes with, cross-gentrification nowadays, that if things like country and rap and like pop punk and 808s can go together and records and tapes can come back, why can't, like, there's not just going to be like your 10 radio stations. There's going to be 1,000 radio stations. There's going to be 1,000 indie stations. There's going to be 1,000 and it's like, you're going to want, here's my closing point, because you're going to want personality with your music. Podcast is basically just taken the individuality of like John Boy and Billy.
Okay.
And I know you know who I'm talking about.
I know exactly who you're talking about. And
motherfucker, you live in Mobile. No, I know you know who I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. And
or Lex and Terry.
I didn't see this point coming, is why I laughed, why I scoffed the way I did, is because I didn't see this point coming, but now I see it.
Do you see where I'm going?
Yes.
You're going to want...
Another one of those beautiful metaphors. How do you do it?
I don't know. I think that some people are going to miss the organicism of like getting up, laughing at some stuff, and like hearing a dick joke, but not a full dick joke, because it is the radio and it's vastly consumed. And then Wish You Were Here by Incubus. Or like they're going to want to hear something that Charlemagne the God would say, and then a Nas track that only that one particular person has an identification with, that they're like, this, it's not one of his hits, it's not one of the, or like
the deep cut, like real
right,
thing.
you know, not something off Illmatic, something that never made a record. It was on a B-side, and it was the one that slapped. It was basically like all of Logic's great shit, and the kind of thing. Or like a reggae station that is not like cut by a traditional black reggaeton or reggae artist or spokesperson or head of that genre. It's ran by like a SoCal guy, like a white guy that's talking about like Stick Figure and like Sublime with Rome and Slightly Stupid, and like it's a little bit more identifiable for like the modern reggae crowd. And it's like you have reggae, like thousands, indie, thousands, EDM, thousands, but within EDM, tech house, bass house, and everyone, you're gonna find yourself having conversations with people that are like, oh, do you like the so and so brothers? No, they play more rhythm stuff, but they are funny. But do you like, you know, like Brock's channel, like his thing that he's doing? Dude, I love him. He's hilarious because he play, and you're going to start having fans of radio stations because of that personality you fall in love with in podcast meets music.
I feel that. Now,
I was long-winded.
That was long-winded, but it made sense.
Here's our 2-hour podcast. Fuck. Here it goes.
Shit, we'll have episode 6 part 1 and episode 6 part 2.
Jesus, right? I'll just flip screen it so I'm sitting on that side. Get your popcorn.
What I was going to say was, like, in a way that kind of already exists with the playlists and stuff like that, like Spotify playlists, Apple playlist, like
Sirius started it.
Sirius does have it, where it's still more of a radio station. You get that personality.
It's mostly personality.
It's mostly personality. But there's also a new thing, and I think it's on Spotify. And I want to say it's called like Play and Talk or something like that, where it's kind of like that. It's more of a podcast, but you play music in between, and so it's like a radio station. So like that exists. It's just not huge quite yet. But also like traditional radio stations where you only get it in like a certain city. And so, like,
that's my problem. Is that there's a lot of really good popping off shit that gets no light, and then all this garbage gets the beam.
And that's why I think traditional radio is on the slope, the downward spiral of.
So you think the idea of radio will resurface, but not on the radio? Not
on the radio, right? I think Spotify's trying to do something with it right now. YouTube's probably gonna do something. I mean, maybe even, you know, TikTok is good about just grabbing everyone's ideas.
TikTok's trying to start a record label.
Yeah. No. They've already done like distribution and stuff like that. There's already a TikTok distribution that specifically does.
Why have you not targeted that?
I have, and it does.
It's mud. It's all muddy.
It gets your music on TikTok, and that's it. And I want my music on Spotify and on Apple and on Deezer and on Tidal and on all these other places, because I don't want to be funneled into one
little lane on
one
TikTok.
lane right now,
especially on an app that will eventually kind of fade at some point.
Probably eventually fade.
Also, what's up with fucking Montana completely banning TikTok statewide?
Was it Montana
or was it Minnesota?
I don't remember, but it was. But and that was another thing we talked about in a previous episode, like people not realizing what TikTok is, and they just think that it's China trying to spy on it. The whole state can't
have TikTok?
It's bro, like
you have cops asking for people's phones now. God damn.
Yeah, it's that whole thing is just that's where this country is in shambles because
that motivates the idea of what I just said though. The podcast meets music.
Yeah, the rebellion
back to originality
of being
the airwaves.
Right. There's always something to counteract the blocking of something or just when somebody puts a stop to one thing, there's always going to be a loophole around it, or there's going to be, a pivot to you can just do this instead or whatever. So really banning TikTok is just going to create more problems because now there's going to be people who are like using, shit, we talked about it and I can't remember what it's called. The thing that allows you to say that you're from a different state or that you're in a different area.
Oh, like the VPN stuff?
VPN.
Yeah.
It's going to create more like
IP address.
Dark web VPNs to where you can.
But do you think people are going to go to that route just to post on or just to maybe make?
Yes. Yeah.
Think people are so addicted to that?
If not, then somebody will make something called Toctic, just because can't be creative right now.
I was just thinking that
something Toctic, and it's going to be the same thing, but it's going to be run by somebody from the United States who's not going to steal your data. And
people in V for Vendetta masks,
right?
Anonymous masks,
yeah. And then it's going to just go dark web, and there's not going to be any regulations on it, and it's going to be this whole other problem that wouldn't have happened if you'd have just known that TikTok isn't trying to steal your data, like. It's going to create more problems than anything else.
Well, see, I think things like that is like a big reason why platforms like SoundCloud don't get enough light. They don't get enough
recognition.
Recognition for their for what they hold, because everyone wants to consume like what's just on the surface. They just want to eat the icing.
The popular. They want to consume what they're told is the thing that they're supposed to be consuming.
I think if I know we spoke last time about Spotify maybe regulating, their uploads and their profile allowance a little bit better. Right. And I think SoundCloud is like a big reason why, in my mind, when I'm on SoundCloud, I find nuggets that it's almost like a demo universe.
No, that's what SoundCloud has become, is because anybody can upload to SoundCloud. Not anybody can upload to Spotify, but anybody can upload to SoundCloud. So that's where the underground lives. The underground lives on SoundCloud.
I know what I was going to say. You said something earlier about vocals with your mics and stuff. And then I was going to say, so like straight up, the record that you're going to cut for me is going to sound amazing then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. No, I mean, we're going to do, well, and that was another thing, is I finally figured out the recipe for what we're trying to do and like how to do it. Okay. And you'll hear that soon.
Because you're full of filler. You're full of get me here and then pull it back. I'm going to come back tomorrow and I'm going to listen to it.
Well, I was going to say, and
then you'll spend all this time on one part. And I'm thinking let's minimalize that and just
do it all in one take.
Not all in one take. Let's take a 2-week span and we'll cut everything in 4 hours. I'll leave it with you. And then the next time I'm here, we'll put some finishing touches on it. And then bam. Tammy. Our first, no, it's our second guest because Eleanor was our first.
Oh yeah, Eleanor was our first.
Well, I guess technically Mac was. He was just in the hallway.
Yeah, he just made his presence known. He wasn't actually there, but you could hear him.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So before we should probably wrap this up because we're around 2 hours. And I know Chelsea's probably going to be.
Oh my God.
We're at an hour and 50 minutes. So I'm thinking.
We can probably cut that to an hour 30, maybe.
I'll probably cut it to an hour and 40.
Cut the fat, but yeah. There's not a lot of fat on this one. There's a lot.
It's a good one.
A lot of good.
I'm not viciously hungover. And
finally,
it feel okay. First off, whenever we shoot, it's weekends that I'm either kid free or like the kiddos are occupied and we do our own thing and we're being homebodies and it's like conducive.
Let's say there was at least one episode where I was super hungover, and I know the episode where I lost my voice mid. That's
episode 3. No, it was 2.
2 or 3. It
was the first episode here.
So we've done it. We've both had our downfalls. Where this one was, I think we're both of sober mind.
Yours was 2, mine was 5.
Okay.
5, I was struggling. Last episode, I was struggling bad. I thought for a moment, like, man, it's okay to not hit an hour. You could do 48 minutes. You could do 54 minutes. You don't have to go.
Call it at 30. I can't.
Like, it doesn't have to be so long. It can be short. And it crossed my mind.
Anyway, with your thought. Sorry, I interrupted.
Wait, was the thought about what the music we're making, or was it about the SoundCloud? Did I close the SoundCloud statement?
I think you closed the SoundCloud statement. You were like, oh, that reminds me, and then you were about to say something.
That's right. Okay, so the music, we'll go with that. The music that we're creating, I would like for it to be more minimal, and the next time that we work together, we have to do more than just cast and chisel. Mainly because I want my guitar back at my house. Because
I meant to ask you about that. I left my house and I was like,
no,
I should have asked him if I...
Because it's motivated me to stay in your ass about us doing stuff. I'm thinking, like, what I really need to do, I don't know what the sound ordinance is at your house. Not that it really would matter that much because, I mean, you could just bring that mic down right to the amp and record real low.
I mean, we'll figure something out.
But I'm thinking, like, if you make something minimal that I could jam and write to, and then maybe we could put some brush vocals on and make something real simple at first. Do something real, like, approachable and minimal, 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 minutes, and then, like, okay. And then the next time we do something, it can get a little bigger and better. It could be some more... Vocals can kind of step out of the dugout a little bit longer, and we get some plate time. Maybe the guitars can do it, and then maybe the third track, you could really come out with some like shit, and then we could both maybe do. I'm thinking like it's literally like a slow walk to the plate, and it's like we'll do maybe 2 or 3 tracks. None of them have to even sound the same. Like I mean this in no offense. Don't be an asshole. You have been writing trap and dubstep consistently, so much in fact that if people are for real fans of yours could hear your music, that's a Wormser track.
I hope so. I hope I have created a sound for myself that's that
110%. I'm a firm believer in that, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. Same thing with me. I've got this like mellow electronic approach, and then everyone's like seeing that I'm writing other stuff now from like a more beginning musical interest from many, many years ago that I'm reintroducing into my life and living a more, it's like lifestyle based, to be honest. And like, so these worlds, I think it could be something good. Bring your Spotify to my SoundCloud.
More metaphors.
See what I'm saying? Yeah, today's been a good episode.
Yeah.
Not hungover.
Both of sound mind and sound body.
I know, right?
It's nice outside. Maybe we should do more with the sunlight. I think that might energize us a little bit more.
I thought about that. Do you think that every time like the clouds move, like, 'cause, over a spectrum of time, like if you were to like time lapse this whole episode, like the light may go in and out like it did that one time when we were in your studio.
I don't know if it would affect it this much.
Is this going to be a filtered episode?
Because we're still covered. We're still like, it's not direct sunlight where it's directly affecting us the whole time.
And I put that back on too, just in case if it even helps.
So to keep it consistent, to keep that lighting
gleamy,
consistent.
Dude,
I think it'll be okay. No, I think the one where it was in my studio, the lights were off, and then my neons were on.
Yeah.
The neons were on, and I think that was messing with us a little bit.
I remember my idea, my legitimate idea. It's gonna take me coming to the cave and doing
Maison de Folie.
Yeah.
My studio.
Right.
Watch an episode, because we talked about this.
Yes, right.
Go back and watch all the other episodes if you haven't watched the other
Jesus,
episodes.
y'all.
Jeez.
Come on.
Catch up.
Fuck. Jesus. Keep up, y'all. Like, leave work, drop the kiddos, get on I-10, shoot all the way to you. From the moment I walk in, we go stay in that studio. Basically, like, you're just like, here, baby, here's Mac. I'm only coming out to pee. And like, we like notebook a ton of podcast ideas. And then after the buzz gets going, we start opening up that workspace and we start chiseling things. And then maybe give ourselves like, okay, we can't be singing and playing guitar past like 10 or maybe 9:30. So let's get on that now. And then we'll get up the next day, shoot a podcast, and then maybe thumb through what we
created.
Yes. And then that'll start
pieces. Yeah.
Right. And then the next time I'm there, I can just show up. We could spend 30 minutes to an hour chiseling through like the sampling or like the recordings that we did, and then shoot an episode. And before you know it, it'll take us 4 episodes. That'll be a full song.
I like it. We'll get to that soon.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It'll take that, because we do this for like 4 hours at a time, and on paper it sounds like enough, but it's not really enough.
No. I mean, yeah, some songs take, even a song that I can finish in a day still takes me like 12 hours.
Yeah.
Just because I'm in and out. I've been working on it all day and I got to get a song done. But like, you have those songs, but then you have those other songs where you're like, an hour at a time, but it takes you like a month to finish.
Yeah. No, I mean, like we shoot 2 hours worth of podcasting, and I'll put it between an hour and 30, and then do little micro things in between, little funny stuff, and then the intro, which is always different every time. Could be a day's worth of work, 2 days worth of work, but I'll sit down for an hour.
Yeah, you can do it.
And I do it. I sit down for an hour and I pump it out. That way it's ready for you under any apocalyptical circumstance. Like if you need to just zoom by here and you're like, look, I have this idea or this, that I need it for the show. It's ready for you. Shit's ready. My work is done. I'm working Monday through Wednesday, and my weekends go from Thursday to Sunday. Also, it feels good to get it off my chest and be like, it's done.
Yeah.
And then I like to watch it throughout the week before you.
That's how excited he is. He gets excited and starts throwing vapes.
Before you get it, I get excited. I'm like, I'm going to watch 30 minutes of this, Damn it. All right, now we need a Gopher, dude. Gopher could sponsor the podcast.
Hey.
Beers, energy drinks, and Gophers. It's our 3 sponsors.
MOOREMADNESSPODCAST@gmail.com if you do want to email some sponsorship. I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, man. Let's wrap it up.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for watching episode 6 of the More Madness podcast. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe.
Share, show your friends.
Show your friends. We're not going to force you to do anything, and we're not going to ask you or beg you to do anything. But if you like it, please support. And we'll be back soon, and maybe with some new music soon too.
Yeah, probably a few episodes before the music.
Okay, but still, that's coming.
Yeah,
Stay tuned.
Thank you, guys. Peace.